What's up, guys? Welcome to today's podcast where we're going to be talking about the situation going on in Chile, the protests, all that good stuff. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Connie. You want to introduce yourself, Connie?
Sure.
Full name?
Okay, so my name is Constanza Valencia and I'm an international student from Chile.
That's awesome. And this is?
Victor, I'm the videographer. I'm going to be kind of moderating now.
Yeah, he's the moderator, the videographer today. And mainly we want to talk about Chile, what it's like to live there to begin, and Connie's background. So can we start, we're talking about you, where you come from and all that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from a little city called Villa Alemana. Okay, it's in the 5th region of Chile, of Valparaiso. Yeah. So
Sounds really cool.
So yeah, I was studying there on a private university, and then last year I decided to come study here. So
What made you want to do that?
So it's really difficult to study in my country because you don't actually get too many benefits. It's really difficult to get a scholarship, for example, or stuff like that. So it was getting really hard for me to actually study there.
Like expensive and things like that?
Yeah, it is really expensive too.
So what's it like to live in Chile? Is it beautiful?
It's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
You have all kind of weathers from north to south. It's a long country too, and it's over the coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful country. I really love it. I love my culture. But right now it's getting really bad there. All the politics stuff and economics.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it, folks? Yeah, it's pretty crazy here.
Yeah.
What do you think about America so far, now that you've been living here for, how long has it been?
Oh, a year.
A year, wow.
Yeah.
365, huh?
Yeah, it's been a year already.
Yeah.
I really like it in here because here it's you actually get all these opportunities, and they actually want you to succeed. So you feel that support that I didn't felt in my country.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you kind of have the grants and that government help and things like that as well here.
Yeah,
It's
I mean
pretty
here
available.
it's pretty easy to actually apply. There's a bunch of websites that you can apply for scholarships or just stuff to help you.
Yeah.
And you don't have that in my country. So yeah.
So we wanted to talk about as well, so we got Connie's background. I'm sure there's crazy stories you could tell us too, but yeah. But we also want to talk about, in Chile right now, there's what would you call it? Like
I
huge
would say a
protest.
revolution.
A revolution, you would call that?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting one. I like that. And can you explain to our audience, and to me even, kind of what spurred this revolution and what caused it, to begin? How did it begin?
Okay, so
As you can see, we both took a lot of notes.
oh yeah. So actually, the detonation effect that you could say, it was the increase on the public transport cost. So people got really tired of this thing just going up and up because in my country, you can go walking anywhere. It's you can go and just take the train or take the bus or whatever, and people move like that. People lives like that. So right now they were just keep getting the cost up and up, so people got really mad and they start to burn the train stations and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but also people think that there's a lot of train stations that they were actually just burned by the police, so they could make all this look bad, right? Because people started just pacific, they were all just protesting on a pacific way.
Okay, so no violence yet.
No violence, but police started to be really violent, and to show this, they started just to shooting people and getting people arrested just without any justification, and even with kids or senior people during the protest. So that's really bad.
Absolutely.
Really bad. So actually you could say that police is actually to protect people, but right now they're not behaving that way. They're actually doing the opposite, the total opposite thing. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, to go into a little bit of the history of Chile, they were kind of they've been I'd say like in the 60s and before, they kind of had like a really bad economic situation there and bad inflation and things like that. And this group of kind of where it began to go uphill in terms of where it began to become better and the economy started to improve was this group of young individuals, young scholars that were foreign exchange students from Chile. They ended up coming here to Chicago, is my understanding, and getting an education here with the idea being that they were going to return to Chile and try to solve their economic crisis that was happening at the time. And then eventually a dictator, what was his name? Pinochet. Pinochet. I was calling him Pinochet. But Pinochet, he kind of rose to power, and the Chicago boys at this point were back in the country, back in Chile, educated in economics and free market ideas. So he pretty much appointed the Chicago boys onto his, it was ministerial positions. So he put them high up within the government, and then they wrote a book called El Ladrillo, which translated means the brick, and the brick became the blueprint for how to fix the economy, which they diagnosed the biggest problem being basically a bloated public system, or socialism in lamest terms. So under their policies, these economic policies, and towards the end of Pinochet's reign, you could call it, I guess, since he was a dictator, the economy began to go up. So what everything about Pinochet, personally, I don't like dictators. I like freedom, democracy. The economy did improve towards the end of his leadership, and then after he was out, Chile became more of a democracy under the leadership of his successor, a Christian Democrat named Patricio Aylwin, who was elected in 1989. And it looks like he was succeeded by a few others as well. But under the leadership of Patricio Aylwin and Eduardo Frei Ruiz-Tagle, the GDP rose by 230%, I noted, as well as the life expectancy increased from 65 to 82. Inflation dropped, this is a big figure, 798%, despite Chile's population doubling. So it looks like a lot of people were coming to Chile, probably because the economy was doing a lot better. And then we get into the protests, that spurred, later towards the 20th century. But it looks like after Eduardo Ruiz-Tagle pretty much left office, or he was succeeded, he was eventually succeeded by, it looks like, I want to say...
I think it's Lagos.
Yeah, Ricardo Lagos, yeah. And he was a socialist, and he was elected in 2000. And yeah, then that's kind of, in my opinion, obviously, where the economy began, or not the economy, but the situation in Chile kind of started to change. So it went from really an economic crisis to then, a dictatorship, which isn't good. But the economy began towards the end of that dictatorship to improve. And then for about a decade, a little over a decade, maybe about a decade and a half, it continued to improve. And then Lagos steps into office. And then that's kind of when it looks like, he declared a war on inequality, it looks like, in the neoliberal system. So I know a lot of the protesters have a beef with the neoliberal system.
Yeah, I mean, people just don't want that system anymore. They're tired of it because it's abusive. It's extremely abusive because people are working like 45 hours per week and they're getting the minimal. So it's just not enough for living, and they just work and work and work, and actually they don't live anymore. They're just living to work, not working to live,
Exactly.
So they're just tired of it, and they really need this to change because it's not healthy at all. People is unhappy. They have like a huge increase in depression and a lot of stuff that it's really concerning.
Yeah, definitely gotta look out for that stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to think where. I know that Ricardo Lagos was succeeded by Michelle Bachelet.
Yeah.
Bachelet, and she was elected in 2006. And then from my notes, looks like the presence of socialism began to spread into the universities and interest groups, and along with it, propaganda. So this is what I worry about going on in Chile, and it's very similar to what goes on in America, in my view. Of course, there's everyone has their own opinion. But I worry that leadership within the government might take advantage of people's economic disparities or their own I guess insecurity with what's going on in the country and use that to gain more power, to gain socialist rule, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm always worried about, especially when I start to see big protesters complaining about capitalism. Then it's always like, it always turns into the same thing, and we have a very similar situation here in America.
Yeah.
And not to the same scale,
No.
but still something very similar that I fear.
Yeah, I mean, it's this like the same base.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because now we have, in America, which has always had its roots in, freedom and democracy, things like that. But now we have people that are rooting for socialists and the people that are trying to elect socialists to the presidency. So I worry about that kind of thing because I don't like socialism. I don't like fascism. I don't like any form of tyrannical government. So I fear, and I hope this isn't true, but I fear that might be what's going on in Chile. And the reason it's important that it spread, or socialism spread into universities, is because that's where they get the indoctrination to begin, is within the school system. And then I know that the protesters, and this is my opinion, but when it comes to public schooling, that's where, that's government ran. So, of course, they want to increase public schooling because that's where the government has more sway because they're the ones, that run the public schools. So I fear that the people are going to go there and receive more socialism indoctrination, those kind of things. So I believe in privatization because America is built on privatization. So I fear that the people there might fall for the socialist scheme. I hope not. But you definitely give your take.
No, but it's actually like you're saying that it is. I mean, when you have more privatization, like you were saying, it's like they want you to think like that way.
Absolutely.
So they're just building these little people from universities or even from school to be like that, to think like that, to think just with money, just like that.
Yeah.
So you actually need to put the education system to think more about the wellness, about how to live better or how to improve, how to change things. But they don't want people to think. They don't want people to have an opinion because it's just easier for them to have this whole this mass of people so they can manipulate however they want.
And
that's
charge them a lot of
easier
money
for
too.
them. Yeah. So that's how their system works.
I understand absolutely.
Yeah.
And I totally have a beef with private institutions overcharging people or taking advantage of them in that sense.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of solutions we can look at. I think you don't do it by having a socialist uprising, and maybe you do it instead by having the government step in. No, I'm pro limited regulation. So I'm not all the way on the right to where I'm like no regulation, no government intervention at all. Sometimes these private organizations.
This is not even about picking a side. It's just about how to live better. I mean, people need dignity. They don't have any dignity right now. Any. They're just using people for their own gain. That's all what they're doing right now. So
and that's what the protesters feel as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just don't care about people. It's asking, and they're asking for stuff that any people would ask. I mean, they're asking for a constituent assembly to make a new constitution.
I heard that. Yeah.
Which is pretty basic because the constitution that they have right now, it was made on a dictatorship. So it's obviously you can't keep doing that.
Yeah.
It's you can't.
I understand that.
And also the nationalization of basic services like water, light, transport. Oh, yeah. Chile is one of the only countries that water is private.
Yeah. It's
private. You have to pay for water.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So it's really bad.
Do you pay for water?
I mean, there's a water fountain right over there.
That's very true. But
it's private. I mean, it belongs to a guy. So.
An individual somewhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I understand that. I did want to talk about that constitutional thing because I do know. Yeah, well, I guess so. Here's where we go back to what I was saying. So, the Pinochet Constitution of 1980 was, by my notes here, very restricting to the action the government could take based on these things. So, they're limited. The government is limited on how much they can do. In my opinion, thanks to Pinochet's constitution. Now, I'm not saying Pinochet was a good guy. I'm not saying that at all. But, even, I'm I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton at all. But even Hillary Clinton can make a good decision here and there, right? Or do good things. So maybe Pinochet in this instance, or maybe it wasn't even Pinochet that was involved in the writing of the Constitution, but he did make it very restricting for the government to take action on these things. So I think that's a good thing, because we don't want a government to be too powerful, right? So obviously there's a problem there with the corporations too, right? Like the free market system, maybe there's some corruption at the top, but the solution isn't to give the government all the power either, because then you really think the government's gonna just say, oh, you just gave us all your rights, all your money. They're just gonna always want more, right? So it's the same concept. It's not the problem isn't the corporations or the free market system or even the government. The problem is human nature, and when humans get power, they take advantage of that power. So you have to have the government step in and make the right decisions. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Is I think a solution would be like the government steps in and puts a cap on. Well, I don't know, puts a cap on how much they could spend, because then that's them having too much power too. So it has to be balanced, right? That's my perspective, right? And I just don't want the because we've seen these revolutions throughout history, like the Jacobins, the French Revolution, where it turns into, it's a big revolution, all the people are for it, but then it turns into something really dark and ugly, like communism. Like that's what happened in Russia. When the Tsars were overthrown, it turned to a communist country, and under Stalin's leadership, millions and millions and millions of Russians were killed. Their own people were killed. Because of that regime change. And I'm not saying the Tsars were good, I'm just saying that at least their system was more stable than communism was. So I just don't want what happened to them to happen in Chile, and I'm not even saying it will, or that's the direction they're going.
It is happening, actually. They are killing people. They are shooting people in the eyes. They're just throwing bombs at their faces with chemicals and stuff.
The police. Yeah. No, I'm totally opposed to police brutality. I don't like that. I don't like that here either.
Yeah, and also they're like arresting people and they're torturing people.
Absolutely.
So
that's not good. No, I don't like that.
No, that can't happen under a democracy. I mean, it's like, how can you dare to do that? I mean,
well, that's the thing, is the police force is the government, though. At least here. I don't know about Chile, but I don't think that the corporations own the police force.
Yeah, but I mean, the president is the one that has power under them. So he's even what he's saying right now is that there's a lot of, obviously, like, old people had cell phones, so obviously if you see something, if you see that someone is
captured on video or camera,
and they're just uploading to social media, and he's saying that all that things that are like on social media are from other countries, not from Chile. So he's saying, no, that's not from here, and blah blah blah. And that's not true. I mean, this is happening, and he's just trying to make look to the other countries, that it's not happening.
Oh, so you're not a big fan of who's the new president?
Sebastián Piñera.
Piñera, yeah, he has like the little squiggly line above the end.
Yeah, Piñera.
So you're not a big fan of Piñera?
No,
okay.
Totally not.
That was one thing I couldn't figure out.
Right now, what he's just doing, like this past week, he's spending like 202 millions of Chilean pesos. That would be like
in circulation,
almost the double in dollars, like $400, millions of dollars. I don't know, something like that, just on a public campaign for peace. Just to trying to clean his image. So it's just a TV spot and like radio things and stuff, just saying like, we can make Chile a better country. Like, join me on my campaign. Like he's trying to make himself look like he's the good guy. Yeah. And that's not true.
So are the Chilean protesters, do they want his resignation?
Yeah, they want them to quit. They want them out. They're tired of him.
Is there someone else they want to put into power?
No, they just want to call elections. They want plebiscites. They want elections. They want their voices to be heard. That's what they want.
No, I understand that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing here, right? We want democracy. We want our votes to count.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I agree with that. I hope that what's going on in Chile ends up being a good thing, right?
Yeah, and
because it can go a lot of directions. We've seen that with revolutions. What happened in America is really like a blip, like a really, really incredibly rare circumstance where the revolution turned into something good, right? Where the people that were the leaders amongst the revolutionaries didn't become dictators, didn't become kings, or whatever you want to call it. When George Washington had that opportunity, he turned it down. He wanted to be something else. They created a constitutional republic, and that's a good thing. And I hope that, let's say this revolution succeeds, I hope that something like that can happen there as well. Where the people are empowered.
Well, yeah, the people they can't stop fighting right now. They need to keep going until they get something, because actually he's not willing to give anything right now. He's just trying to give bonus to people, like, okay, yo, go, shut up, you have a bonus, you know,
Yeah.
okay, just stop,
Just
like,
giving people money.
yeah.
See, I don't like that. Yeah.
So he's like, he thinks that everything is like that, and it's actually, people is tired of abuse, and he just doesn't get it, and even he should be in jail for a long time because he's a corrupt person.
Corrupt politician.
Yeah, he's a corrupt politician, and
a lot of those here.
And people want penalty of corruption for politicians and for big entrepreneurs, and like they want the things to be equal to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because what he did is he just paid a whole bunch of money to the government because of all the money that he already robbed, and that was all. And now he's the president. Yay!
Yeah.
So it's like,
exactly. I feel
no.
So when
No,
you say
it doesn't
everything,
work like
you want everything to be equal, you mean you want everyone to make the same money, or how do you feel about that?
No, I mean it's obvious that you're gonna have a few jobs that gain more than others.
Okay,
that's
good, yeah.
that's okay. But I mean, you need to do two things, I would say. I mean, you need to decrease the cost of life. That's the first thing. And second, you need to distribute like all the money from the government and stuff that they are just getting from rich people because they're just making their fortunes bigger. It's this whole concentration of money. They need to actually give it to in equal like fractions for everyone, you know. So like to increase education, for example, or to increase the health system that it's really bad. Like people are actually dying in wait lists on the public system of health.
The healthcare system?
Yeah.
The public system.
Yeah, the public system. So the only way
private.
the only way that you can actually have a good health is to pay to a private company.
I agree with that.
So you can have a good health. So I was reading this testimony the other day about a girl. She was saying that her grandma, like 4 years ago, she lived in the south of Chile, and she got to her house like saying like she was going to die and she wanted to die with her family. And they were like, no, you can't die, blah blah blah. I don't remember actually what did she had, what condition did she had, but she just didn't had any opportunity by herself to go to a health program or to anything to actually have an appointment and to treat her. She couldn't go to there, so she was like, I'm just gonna die. And she was just committed to die. And then her parents they pay her like they had to ask for a loan on a bank, like a lot of millions, to actually she could go to surgery, and she saved herself. And now, after 4 years, she gets a call of the public system of health saying that now they have an appointment for your grandma. After 4 years, I mean, she could have died.
Easily.
So it's like,
That's
what
exactly.
are you talking about? You're just, they don't have any respect for older people either.
You just pretty much, you brought in the healthcare like situation we have here too, because the people here are calling for the similar healthcare system where now the government or a public healthcare, right?
Yeah.
Like in Canada, where they have to wait in 20-week waiting lines just to get an appointment. You know what I mean? And maybe they'll get the appointment if they're, and those are for life-threatening conditions too, just like you just illustrated is going on in Chile. And that's why here in America we had that whole scandal, or not the scandal, the whole beef between whoever, but over Obamacare, because Obamacare was universal health care, but it wasn't only the public option. It had the public and the private option. So that's our beef on, that's my beef, I guess, with public health care, is that I just don't think it works well. I don't want to wait in a 20-week waiting line. And I think that the private system, it encourages innovation, because if one private company, for example, can get you in the same day that you call them, and then another one, takes a week or 2 weeks, then you're always going to go to the one that's better, and that forces the other one that takes a week or 2 weeks to improve their system so that you're in there faster, getting your appointment. But if you have a public option, then you only have that one option, so you don't have the other choices. So that's what she just illustrated is going on in Chile, where they have to wait in ungodly waiting lines, really bad ones, and I don't like that.
They
kind of
have to
stuff.
stay like all night in hospitals because they don't have beds, they don't have enough rooms, they don't have enough doctors even, because they don't pay them well either. So they need to build more hospitals, they need to actually put money on this, but they're not doing it. And also the Minister of Health in Chile, he's a corrupt person too. So he's a thief too, and he's a friend of the president. That's why he's there in that position, So It's like they just care about their own good.
Absolutely.
Nothing else.
Yeah, not
They don't care
wanting to
about
pay an
people.
arm and a leg just to do whatever.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. We are. What is it? Short on time?
We got like 4 minutes.
4 more minutes.
So we could talk 2 more minutes and then we could wrap up. Some last to wrap up.
Yeah, perfect. Let's see what else. I just want to add in some things here. We can always cut this out. I do like this. I think this is a good point that they made about the. So what happened after? So now we got Piñera in office, and I don't know too much about Piñera. If I took any notes on him, I think I did, but I'm pretty sure, is he also a socialist, Piñera?
I don't think so. No, I don't think he's a socialist. I don't remember which.
I should have wrote more about him. Looks like that was a blip in my note taking.
But yeah, but he's an entrepreneur. I mean, he owns like a lot of like companies and stuff that had collusions. So that's the guy that is running the country right now.
Yeah, and the country's not doing so hot, obviously, because the people are not very happy.
No.
But there is one thing some quotes that I took down here that I thought were relevant and that were good, or a good point, because a lot of people blame the situation that's going on in Chile right now on a lack. So when those free market guys, the capitalists that were the presidents that were around during the time when the economy in Chile was doing really well, there was one thing they didn't do, and they didn't disseminate their ideas. They kind of just rode the wave of the good economic boom until they were out of office. But they didn't disseminate their ideas, the free market ideas. So that's why people fear Chilean people might fall into the pit of socialism. So right here, this individual says, individual by the name of Ludwig von Mises taught us that ideas and only ideas can light the darkness. And then here he also says people are the agents of change, and if people don't have good ideas, change will be for the worst. So I hope that the Chileans' ideas end up being very good ideas, or hopefully they can, even though there was a lack of dissemination of those good ideas back in the the 90s when the economy was doing really well, I hope that they can still spawn their own great ideas. And there's one other thing. Yeah, Axel Kaiser also feels similar to me. He is I want to say an intellectual out of Chile, but he says the Chilean advantage is due to an historical accident, which is now coming to an end. Chile will show in the coming years that it is nothing more than any other Latin American country. And I hope that's not the case, because you take a look at Venezuela, you take a look at Mexico, you take a look at a lot of these countries. They're not doing so hot as far as the economic situation goes. And other things as well. Mexico in particular has a very bad cartel problem. Venezuela has really bad just financial problem due to their socialism just going crazy there. And their people have been starving. They started eating their pets like 6 years ago because it's so bad they couldn't find food to eat. So I hope it doesn't turn that way in Chile, and I pray for them, absolutely. But that'll be my closing thoughts.
Yeah, well, actually, you just pretty much said like everything to close.
Awesome.
But basically, my country needs help, like international help, because now from the inside it's like nothing is going on there. People is not being like heard by anyone. The government doesn't want to improve stuff. So it's like my country really needs international help right now. They need someone to go there and to put things in order, and to just get this guy, the president, Sebastián Piñera, they want them out.
Absolutely.
They want them out of there because they want someone that actually hears them and that actually says like what people want, and that actually can do something about it, like all this corruption and collusion stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, this has been Connie and Matt and Victor. And Connie's Instagram handle is @ChileanGirl. No, I'm kidding. I was thinking that'd be a cool one, though. That'd be a fun one. But, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Tune into the next one. Not sure what it'll be yet. Do you have any ideas flowing?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, tune in. Keep your eyes on your YouTube feed. Check us out. Hope you like this one. And we're out.